Watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
Welcome back to the Final Ghouls of Horror. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Holly.
And I'm Elle.
We're three people who love horror and are coming at it from different perspectives of who we are, as well as very different levels of experience with the genre, which we're always excited to talk about. And this week, we're all going a little mad as we take a look at Alfred Hitchcock's seminal classic, Psycho.
Here we have a quiet little motel, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
You have a vacancy?
Oh, we have 12 vacancies.
You know, this is the first place that looks like it's hiding from the world.
I think that we're all in our private traps, clamped in them. And none of us can ever get out.
Is anyone at home?
Oh, that must be my mother.
Is anything wrong?
So let's first off get sort of a baseline on Alfred Hitchcock. Elle, how much are you at all a Hitchcock fan? Have you seen any of his movies or the TV show or public persona? Like, how familiar are you with Hitchcock, and if at all, are you a fan?
So the only time I've seen Hitchcock, basically, is the guest appearance he did in The Simpsons, like just as a background gag.
Mm-hmm.
And I have read a couple of books in the Three Investigators series of books that were published 1964 to 1987 or thereabouts.
Okay.
Which, if you didn't know, is like a young adult crime-solving kids, basically, that get their start because they win a competition. And it's like, you get to meet Alfred Hitchcock and we'll drive you around in a solid gold limo for a month.
Okay. Sounds
that
interesting.
That was how they got their mystery-solving license, basically.
Right on.
Like their credentials.
Right. Okay, fair enough. Holly, how about you? Are you familiar? Well, better way to put that. How familiar are you with Hitchcock as a filmmaker? Have you seen any of his stuff? Is there anything that you like?
Yes. My father, who very much felt it was his duty to educate me on all things film, started me fairly young. I'm trying to remember if Rear Window or The Birds was the first one he showed me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was Rear Window, because I think I watched The Birds shortly before he showed me Psycho. And then, goodness, I'm trying to remember all of his films.
Yeah, there's
I've
a lot of
seen
them.
many, like, these are the ones that stand out, but I have seen many others.
Mm-hmm.
Did he do North by Northwest?
Yes, North by Northwest is him.
Yeah, that is one of my father's all-time favorite movies.
I mean, it's really good.
He's got books on it. He's obsessed with that house because, like, he wanted to be an architect. And so that probably was the first one that I was shown, come to think of it. Because he showed me that one when I was, like, really little. And my father-in-law is also obsessed with that movie. So it's been seen a lot.
Fair enough.
But yes, I am fairly familiar with a good deal of his film.
Right on. Yeah, I got interested in Hitchcock. I mean, I knew who he was from a fairly early age. but I really started to get interested in him when I started getting interested in film in a deeper way. I want to say the first Hitchcock film I saw, I think, was Notorious, which it's a spy film noir with Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, which was kind of why I saw it. Casablanca is my favorite film of all time. So, being Ingrid Bergman, I enjoy film noir. That's like two of my favorite things. So it was a really good introduction for me. I have seen not even a majority of his films, because there are films from like the silent era. And dude made a lot of movies, especially during like the early era. We're talking like 3-4 movies a year in some cases. Kind of how it was at that point. But like from his sort of peak era, I've seen Notorious, Strangers on a Train, Vertigo, Rear Window, obviously, North by Northwest, Rope. Rope is one of my favorites of his. Weirdly, despite all that, and despite the fact that I was always a big horror fan, I don't think I saw Psycho until, I want to say, late 90s, early aughts. Loved it first time I saw it, and then every time I've done a lot of rewatches of it over the years in terms of learning more about it, digging deep into it. There are a couple Hitchcock films I've done that with. That one, Vertigo, obviously, because there's so much to get into on that one. But yeah, so long story short, too late. Very, very familiar. Love the man's work. Hate the man as a person, because he was kind of awful to his actresses, but was fairly good to his actresses on Psycho, so we don't have to delve into that too much for this episode.
It seems to be a weirdly recurring theme, not just in old cinema, but Hollywood in general.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of is. Hitchcock was a notoriously difficult director for actors to work with. There was, I don't remember if this was an exact quote or just someone characterizing what he was like as a director. Hitchcock was very much about the medium and considered the director to be the authorial voice of the film, and considered actors to be little more than props comparatively in importance. Just another tool that he was using to tell the story. So he was a bit of a control freak. He was very much not into improvisation. Again, Psycho is a bit of an exception on that, which we'll touch on in a minute. But yeah, he was not great to work with, and he was particularly not great if you were one of his actresses, Tippi Hedren. But we're not talking about the birds right now. We are talking about Psycho, and we will talk a little bit about the production history here. So Psycho is directed by Alfred Hitchcock from a script by Joseph Stefano. It stars Anthony Perkins, Vera Miles, John Gavin, Martin Balsam, and Janet Leigh. The movie is based on Robert Bloch's 1959 novel of the same name. Bloch was inspired by the story of serial killer Ed Gein, whose story also inspired our first episode's topic, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as well as what is sure to be a future topic, Silence of the Lambs. Hitchcock's assistant, Peggy Robertson, had read a positive review of the book and suggested it to him. However, script readers at Paramount had already rejected the book as a potential film. So Hitchcock optioned it himself for $9,500 and told Robertson to buy all of the copies of the book to preserve its secrets, which is absolutely adorable to me, thinking about that in 2025. Paramount was still not cool with the idea of the film and refused to provide his usual budget. So Hitchcock offered to film it cheaply in black and white and to use the crew from his TV show Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Paramount still said no. So Hitchcock offered to finance and film it himself at Universal Studios' backlot and take a 60% stake in the film over his usual $250,000 director's fee. They finally agreed to it, and the rest is history. The film is largely faithful to the book, with a few changes to make Norman more sympathetic, the expansion of Marion Crane's story to the first half of the film, and removing a bit of romance between Sam and Lila from the book. Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins were both known stars at the time. Leigh took a fourth of her usual payday because of the opportunity to work with Hitchcock, and agreed essentially without even discussing salary. Filming began in November of 1959 and ran through February of 1960 with a budget of just $807,000. By comparison, his two films on either side, North by Northwest and The Birds, cost $4.5 million and $3.3 million. In 2025 dollars, he basically made Psycho for about $8.5 million. Perkins and Leigh were allowed to improvise on this film, as long as it didn't involve camera movement. Like I said, this was not a normal thing for Hitchcock to allow to do. Hitchcock was also forced to film some retakes, which is another unusual thing for him. Notably, the extreme close-up on Janet Leigh's eye for the shower scene had to be redone because of water splashing Leigh's face. She just blinked. And the reveal of Mother was a very complicated scene because of everything that needed to happen into it that required a number of retakes. The shower scene, which is arguably one of the most famous in cinema, was shot over 6 days and is believed to have as many as 78 shots and 52 cuts. Hitchcock used chocolate syrup for the blood and initially wanted no music for the scene, but Bernard Herrmann insisted he try it with the score that he created. Hitchcock ultimately agreed it was better with the score. Obviously. The film is among those credited with eroding the restrictive production code of the era that forbids certain types of content on scene. Specifically, we're talking about the sexuality and violence here. Production code standards, among other things, forbid unmarried couples from being seen in the same bed, which Psycho does in its opening scene, essentially. It's in the aftermath, but it's very clear what's going on there. Also, and this one is always funny to me, this was the first mainstream film to feature a toilet flushing, and that was a serious concern of censors at the time. The shower scene was forced to undergo some changes overseas. Here in the US, Hitchcock got past it hilariously because when the film censors objected to it, only some of them did. Other people didn't see anything that required cuts because of the number of quick cuts and actions. People were seeing what they thought they were seeing, basically. So Hitchcock said, oh yeah, I will take that stuff out. Didn't change a frame, resubmitted it, and then other people saw stuff that they thought they saw in it, and the people who originally objected didn't, and eventually it passed uncut. Psycho released on June 16th, 1960. Reviews were deeply polarizing for it. Many critics lambasted the sex and violent content. Others praised it, particularly Hitchcock's direction and Perkins and Leigh's performances. Hitchcock and Leigh received Oscar nominations, as did the film's cinematography and art direction, though none of them won. It ultimately earned $32 million in 1960. and has gone on to become one of the most praised films, not only in horror, but in cinema of all time. It has influenced pretty much every horror film since. Is considered to be a proto-slasher, and spawned 3 sequels as well as a remake and a TV series prequel called Bates Motel. It was selected for preservation in the Library of Congress in 1992. And our traditional fun facts. Hitchcock, who is known to insert himself as in cameo roles, has his customary cameo early in the film. He is a man standing on the sidewalk across from Marion's office in a cowboy hat. The film had a no late admission policy with theater on Hitchcock's orders. Essentially, if you got to the theater at any point before the movie started, you couldn't go in and see it. Hitchcock did this because A, he wanted to preserve the secrets, and B, he believed that people would feel cheated if they came to see Janet Leigh and missed her, because she was a very heavy part of the marketing, and spoiler alert, she doesn't make it through the whole movie. Lee's role was paid homage by her daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis of Halloween fame, in Ryan Murphy's Scream Queens via a shower sequence. Speaking of Lee, she herself wasn't bothered by filming the shower scene, but after she saw it on film, she was so disturbed by it that she chose baths over showers for the rest of her life, saying that she did not realize how vulnerable people are when they're in the shower until seeing the scene. And finally, as a historical note, this is the oldest R-rated film ever, because it was retroactively given that rating in 1984, considering that the MPA rating system didn't exist until 1968. A bit of content warning before we get into the plot. There's not, from a 2025 perspective, there isn't a lot of like super triggery content, but there is some fairly questionable content around mental health and potentially gender identity. There's not a lot beyond that, as long as you're understanding that you're going into this film, and there will be some horror content. So yeah, that's the notes on this. Holly, tell us what this movie is about.
Marion Crane, a real estate secretary in Phoenix, steals $40,000 in cash from her employer after hearing her boyfriend, Sam Loomis, complain that his debts are delaying their marriage. She sets off to drive to Sam's home in the town of Fairvale, California, switching cars in Bakersfield after an encounter with a suspicious policeman. A heavy rainstorm forces Marion to stop at the secluded Bates Motel, just a few miles from the town. Norman Bates, the proprietor, whose house overlooks the motel, registers Marion, who uses an alias, and invites her to dinner with him in the motel's office. When Norman returns to his house to retrieve the food, Marion overhears him arguing with his mother about his desire to eat with Marion. After he returns, he discusses his hobby as a taxidermist, his mother's illness, and how people have a private trap they want to escape. When Marion suggests that Norman should have his mother institutionalized, he becomes greatly offended and insists that she's harmless. Marion decides to drive back to Phoenix the next morning to return the stolen money. As she showers, a shadowy figure enters the bathroom with a kitchen knife and stabs her to death. Shortly afterwards, Norman is heard horrified at his mother's actions and rushes back to find Marion dead. He hurriedly cleans up the murder scene and replaces Marion's body, her belongings, and unbeknownst to him, the hidden cash in her car before sinking the vehicle in a swamp. Marion's sister, Lila, arrives in Fairvale a week later. She tells Sam about the theft and demands information about Marion's whereabouts. He denies knowing anything about Marion's disappearance. A private investigator named Arbogast approaches them, stating that he has been hired to retrieve the money. He stops in at the Bates Motel and questions Norman, whose nervous conduct, stuttering, and inconsistent answers arouse his suspicion. Arbogast examines the guest register and discovers from some handwriting that it looks like Marion spent a night in the motel. When he infers from things Norman says that Marion had spoken to his mother, Arbogast asks to speak to her, but Norman refuses to allow it. Arbogast leaves. He finds a payphone and calls Lila to tell her of his suspicions and that he will go back to the motel to speak to Norman's mother and rejoin Lila in the town later. When Arbogast returns and enters the Bates house to search for Norman's mother, a shadowy figure at the top of the stairs ambushes him and slashes him around the head. He tumbles down the stairs as the figure stabs him repeatedly. When Sam and Lila do not hear back from Arbogast, Sam goes to the motel to look for him. Sam spots a silhouette in the house, who he assumes is Norman's mother. She is unresponsive to Sam's calls. Lila and Sam alert the local sheriff, Al Chambers, who tells them that Norman's mother died in a murder-suicide 10 years before. Chambers suggests that Arbogast lied to Sam and Lila so that he could pursue Marion and the money. Convinced that something has happened to Arbogast, Lila and Sam drive to the motel and check in. Sam distracts Norman in the office while Lila sneaks into the Bates house. Suspicious, Norman knocks Sam out. As Norman heads to the house, Lila hides in the fruit cellar where she discovers the mummified body of Norman's mother. Lila screams in horror, and Norman, wearing women's clothes and a wig, enters the cellar and attempts to attack her, only to be subdued by recovered Sam. At the police station, a psychiatrist explains to Lila, Sam, and Chambers that Norman killed his mother and her lover out of jealousy. Unable to bear the guilt, he stole his mother's corpse and treated it as if she were still alive. Then recreated his mother as an alternate personality, as jealous and possessive towards Norman as he felt about his mother. When Norman was attracted to a woman, Mother would take over. Under the mother personality, Norman killed 2 women before he killed Marion. The psychiatrist concludes that Mother has now completely submerged Norman's personality. Norman sits in a jail cell and hears his mother's voice stating the murders were his doing. Meanwhile, Marion's car, which contains her remains and the stolen money, is pulled from the swamp.
And they all lived happily ever after. No, they didn't.
No.
So yeah, that Psycho. What a movie. All right, so let's start with, this film has arguably 2 major twists in it. And I feel like everybody knows the twist. Or at least I feel like it's really hard not to go into this film at this point knowing that not knowing that Norman is the killer. And obviously, I think the shower scene is one of those scenes, again, that just everybody is aware of. It's too well known and too iconic. But I think if you're not a horror devotee and you haven't seen the film before, you wouldn't know that this is basically 2 movies in one. Like, you would probably go in, like, expecting the hotel, all of that stuff, and then you're going to get, wait, why are we in Phoenix? Why are we in the middle of this crime drama situation? And obviously this is Marion's story. It really sets her up. And then offs her midway through and suddenly switches. So, Elle, was this was this twist, or frankly either of the twists, were these things that you were aware of going in? And either way, how did they play out and how did they work for you?
So I did know the whole thing with Mother being, just him playing it, because I watched an episode of Rocko's Modern Life.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking of during that scene. Sorry, go on.
I am unfamiliar with this.
So the basic gist of the episode is they're driving across America to see all these to see one national treasure, like the equivalent of going to see the Grand Canyon kind of thing.
Okay.
And they get tired, so they try to pull into a hotel for the night, and it is the Bates Motel, BAIT''S. And they run into a guy who's very similar to Norman. It's just like we have plenty of spare rooms, and they all have showers. And it turns to the house on the hill in the background. It's like, what's that? Coming, Mother, and pulls out a dress and wig and runs off towards the house. And Rocco and Heifer just sort of look at each other and get back to their motorcycle with sidecar and drive off.
Yes, we have a vacancy, and we have showers in all the rooms. What's that? Coming, Mother!
Hell, maybe we should try somewhere else.
So I knew that part of it.
Fair.
The multiple story aspect, it's I didn't see it exactly playing out like that, but logically I knew it would have to because of the famous shower scene.
Right.
It's well, that's not the end of the film. And at that point, if you don't have another character coming in, you just have the antagonist. So how the hell does this work? Unless there's something else going to be happening.
Yeah.
I didn't see it happening twice.
Yeah.
Just the detective getting killed as well. It's okay. I guess we're running it back.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I think it got me in a bit of an unexpected way, because it's just again, it's I knew something had to happen, but not to that extent.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah, Holly, how about I at the very least this viewing, I feel like you're probably well aware of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, how does the multi-story thing and kind of all the surprises in there?
I mean, I'm trying to think back to when I first watched.
Right.
Which it's been I think my dad showed it to me. I was, I don't know, 13 or 14 probably.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've watched it from start to finish since. I've seen scenes, but not from start to finish.
Right.
So I did forget how early on Marion gets killed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that's, well, it's what, probably about the halfway point or something?
It's just about the halfway point. I marked it this time. It is 46, 47 minutes of a 100 and some 107-minute film. So it's right in the middle.
So I thought it was a little later. Because I guess in my mind, I thought, how long is the movie?
It is 100 hour and 49 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. I thought basically that all of the stuff that happens after the shower was done in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's, yeah, because it's Marion and I think it's, I mean, for me at least, Marion and Norman are the characters. So you kind of forget
Yes.
the rest. So you assume they're all of the film.
Yeah, I just like Lila's fine. I kind of forget about her a lot. Like, she sure does exist. But like Marion's the one that you resonate more with.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But I like the way it played out. I would say I think we could have had a little more time. I really liked the Marion Norman dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we could have had a little more time with that.
For sure.
Just a little more. That would have been nice, and we could have shortened Lila and
Sam and the whole thing. Yep.
Right. Male model, what forgettable guy. Yeah, him.
Yep.
I haven't.
Well, and we will get into that part because I think there is a very specific reason that they do that. But no, it's funny. I've seen this multiple times. I would say at least 6 or 7 times. I always forget how much time the Marion stuff takes up. Because it's very easy to think like, oh, it's the hotel and it's the house that is kind of iconic and it's right, and all the voyeurism stuff and so on. I always forget, for example, that it starts with that wide shot of Phoenix. I forget that it takes place in Phoenix, which I always appreciate because I like films that are not set in Los Angeles or New York. Give us movies set in other cities, because they all have their own flavor. But yeah, it's funny because I'm super engaged in what most people think of as kind of just the setup to get us to the point. I'm super engaged in Marion and the steal the money plot and trying very, very poorly to evade police attention and boss attention and everything like that. I would have watched an entire movie of just Marion stealing the money and trying to evade authorities and live her best life in California.
She wouldn't have made it there. She does not know how to not look suspicious in front of a cop.
Yes, she is the worst don't be suspicious person ever. I agree with that.
I would not go on the run with her.
Not that Norman's great at it either, but
is it bad that I find him adorable?
Oh no, not at all. Because he is.
If I were going to go on the run, I wouldn't mind having her along, because it's like that old joke of you don't need to outrun the bear, you just need to outrun your friend.
Yeah.
It's legit. Like, oh, they're getting too close. Tell you what, I'll shake them. Don't worry, I'll come back for you.
Yep.
Well, I'm also not going on the run without.
Oh. Curses, you've tumbled to my nefarious plot.
But yeah, I really like, it's hard. It's impossible for me at this point to go into this movie and forget that we are going to lose Marion midway through. I mean, even if somehow I hadn't seen the movie, I've seen enough other movies. I've seen Scream. And I know how many movies have been like, hey, what if we killed off our most famous character? And they all did it because Psycho did it.
No, they do it very early on in Scream.
Yes, no, 100%. But that is very specifically, Kevin Williamson has said flat out, oh yeah, no, that's an homage. And they cast Drew Barrymore because of that. To the point that is now the tradition in Scream. Get the really famous person and kill them in the opening scene.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it does a good job of, because it could feel like a bait and switch, right? It could feel like, okay, we're getting invested in this story. Ah, shit. We spent 40 minutes with this character and she's gone. That felt like a waste of time. It never does. And I think that's a lot into, that owes a lot to Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins, and how smoothly Hitchcock does that sort of transition from Marion as the primary character to Norman as the primary character, which allows me a smooth transition segue into talking about the characters. So yeah, we've got basically in Psycho, we have two major characters. We have Norman and we have Marion. And then we have Lila, Arbogast, and Sam, and a couple other randoms. But really, we're talking about Norman and Marion here. So, Holly, obviously you've touched on this a little bit, but like, which of these characters really popped for you? Which one? What do you think of the characters as a whole and how they play out?
Okay, is it bad? Because like I knew how things were going to end.
Right.
That I was shipping Norman and Marion.
No, I think
like,
it makes
they are
sense.
So cute. They're really, really adorable together. And
I think that's I think that's Hitchcock's intent.
Just leave Sam. Like, who needs him? I'm really tired of that character.
Fair.
It's fine. He's a cardboard cutout. Lila's a cardboard cutout. They deserve each other, so they can go be cardboard cutouts together. Whereas Marion and Norman can live a very interesting life. It might not be a long life,
right? But
it'll be interesting.
All they have to do is get rid of a few issues. You know,
a little bit of therapy.
Toss out a body. They'll be fine.
It's fine. It's fine. I feel like she and his mother could really bond. And then there's some other characters.
That would be a very different movie. It'd be one I'd watch, though.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my opinion. You got cardboard cutouts, you got you two great characters, and then there's some other people in there.
Yep. Okay, that is absolutely fair. Elle, how about you? What do you think of, again, essentially our primary two characters, and then do you think of the remainders?
I think I'm largely in the same boat where it's like, you have your antagonist, you have your protagonist. There are some others, I guess, some way through the film, about half hour in.
Mm-hmm.
They show up, but they're barely there, which is weird because it kind of centers on them for some reason.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, it's, as you said, it's like you get the big names, you kill them off, and then you do the rest of it with the rest of the cast.
Mm-hmm.
But in that case, it's kind of like, well, they should be interesting then.
So, again, like I said, I have a belief of why this is. And the gist is, so we essentially, I know technically Norman is the antagonist of this movie. I would argue he's the second protagonist of the movie. I mean, he is the quote-unquote villain, but he's definitely the focus character after Marion dies. So I have a very strong belief that Hitchcock and Joseph Stefano, the screenwriter, intentionally made Lila, Sam, even Arbogast a little bit. Arbogast is probably the character that pops the most, besides our two leads, just because he has stuff to do. And he gets to have that sort of dueling scene with Norman. But essentially, Hitchcock is trying to keep our sympathies with Norman as a character. If we start off with Marion. Marion is, while clearly a morally conflicted person, is clearly a sympathetic character. Like, even in 1960, where she's doing a lot of stuff that you don't do in cinemas if you are the good character. She is involved in an affair. She is stealing money. She is going on the run. She is lying to the police. She is very badly trying to switch cars while the police officer is standing across the street watching her. Oh my God, Marion, what are you doing? She's even trying to lie to Norman to cover up her identity. She is the protagonist, and she is a very sympathetic character. And a lot of that is down to Janet Leigh. Like, Janet Leigh's performance is fucking fantastic. But once she died, like you said, we need another protagonist. And I would argue Hitchcock has a choice at that point. He can either switch the protagonist over to Lila and make us sympathetic towards Lila, or he can switch the protagonist over to the person who just killed our protagonist. Granted, if you don't know the twist, you don't realize that Norman is the killer. So in order to make us more sympathetic towards Norman, you can't give us sympathy towards Lila and Sam and Arbogast, because they are all trying to uncover his stuff. Essentially, while they are the morally right characters, quote unquote, I would argue that Lila, Sam, and Arbogast are the antagonists of the back half of the film.
Yeah. It's with Sam especially, I feel he could have been slightly more of a character, like that archetype of like, oh, you're a wise guy, I'm going to bop you one. Like, sort of that little bit more of that manly character, because the way he's acting it's a bit too passive for me. Okay. And then Norman reacting the way he does is like, is overselling what he's getting given.
A little bit.
He is just slightly overacting what that version of Sam would be playing against. The fact that he's doing it against this more passive version makes that stand out more, and not in a great way.
Okay. I mean, I can see that.
That's why I'm thinking it's like they do feel very, very cardboard. It feels like they are just the script device to get the story going, rather than characters in their own right.
You're not wrong. And again, I would argue that is the intent. Which you can do that, like, if you're trying to achieve a certain effect, then you can do things that would not work in another film. And I think that's what's trying to be done here. I can definitely see if it doesn't necessarily work as well, though, for you.
I finished watching this movie an hour and a half ago, just before we started recording. I forgot that Lila was in it until basically just now. This is how much impact she has.
Yep.
She is there to do the reactionary scream at the end.
A little bit.
Because it's coming from a guy that would sound weird in movies.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh.
In movies in the 60s at the least. That's fair. I would, and we'll get into that when we get into the actually the next topic. I think there is definitely a purpose to the character. And this is also, again, I'm just getting into it now. Lila and Sam are basically there, and I think Holly, you said it. They're basically there to be mirrors to Marion and Norman.
Mm-hmm.
They are, and mirrors are a very strong motif in this film, and we'll get into that when we get into the direction. But they are for lack of a better way to put it, Lila and Sam are what Marion and Norman could have been if they didn't go down the quote-unquote wrong roads. Which inherently makes them less interesting characters, absolutely. And I think that says a lot about what Hitchcock is trying to say about these characters. It's kind of interesting that the characters who fall to quote-unquote madness, I'm using very heavy quotation marks here, are essentially our protagonists, are essentially the characters that we are sympathizing with. And it is a term that both of them use in terms of madness. Even Marion says at one point, I don't remember what the exact phrase is, but she refers to herself as going mad a bit. By which she means being tempted into doing something that is quote unquote bad in stealing the money. As far as I'm concerned, we spent 5 minutes with the guy who is going to buy his daughter a house with that money. Girl, take that bag, because he's awful.
Oh yeah, that guy I meant to mention. Like, the one that was obviously just all over her.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Doug Dimmadome.
Yes. Like, are you just gonna jump the desk in a minute? Like,
yep. While he is talking about, while he's showing off a picture of his daughter and calling her his baby, and I'm buying her a house, which is probably just how this fucking asshole spends money to control his daughter. Like, fuck capitalism. Am I right?
One side note on that, by the way, on a minor character.
Uh-huh.
So the other girl that works with her.
Yep.
Who's like, oh, he probably saw my wedding ring. That's why he didn't hit on me. I'm like, why are you jealous? Why?
Right? Yep.
You don't want that. You're safe.
I mean, I'd take a house for 40 grand if there's one going.
That's fair. I've said it before. I'm easy. I'm just not cheap. So I'll take an asshole sugar daddy. Sure, why not?
Ted DiBiase said it best. Everyone's got a price.
Yep, absolutely. So, but but yeah, circling back around, I appreciate Lila and Sam for the purpose that they serve in this story, which is not to be engaging characters. Their purpose is to reflect Norman and Marion and to make them more interesting characters by comparison. So, but I can also absolutely see why that it does cast a little bit of a pallor over the back half of the film a bit. But yeah, moving on from the acting to Hitchcock's work. So anybody who's seen a lot of Hitchcock's films can tell you this is one of his less overtly flashy films. Like, you compare this to something like Vertigo or North by Northwest or even Rear Window. And this is, from a surface level, seems a little bit more workmanlike, Obviously, it had a lower budget, so that means it looks a little bit quote unquote cheaper, but it still absolutely has the Hitchcock stamp on it. There are a number of moments I think that he uses that set very particular tones. The sort of documentary-like open with the date and time stamps. The overhead shot of when Arbogast dies. Probably the most iconic moment in terms of like the directorial stuff, which is the superimposing of Mother's skull over Norman at the end. So, Elle, were any of those, or are there any moments at all in this, in terms of Hitchcock's direction, what he's doing, that stood out to you, and how do you think, just overall, how he directs this movie?
Obviously, I'm not as familiar as I assume you both are,
right,
with his particularities. But I did get a couple of things that stood out. With the Arbogast's death, it looked very silly to have the camera following him quite that closely for that long, I think.
Okay.
Like, he should be moving more than he is to be falling down the stairs. But it looks like he is like sliding backwards down it rather than falling.
Yes, 100%.
So that made it stand out to me as a bit silly.
That's fair.
And then with the shower scene as well, it's weird, but it reminds me of Kevin Dunn.
Okay, I know where you're going with this. Kevin Dunn, Holly, for reference, is a WWE former, thank Christ, former producer.
Okay.
There is one particularly egregious sort of scene, essentially, that was going around online for a bit. I think it was in 2 minutes, there were like 27 different cuts.
Yep.
And he insisted on any time that someone gets punched, the camera would have to zoom in and shake a bit and come back out to show more impact.
Yeah. And it's not good.
And that is about the worst example of a directorial style that I've ever seen. But I couldn't help but be reminded of it in the shower scene with the repeated like cuts and transitions.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like nowhere near as bad. But that's what came to mind. It's just like oh man, I wish I wasn't thinking about this right now.
That's fair, and that I don't think that that's Hitchcock's fault.
No,
it's just unfortunate that Hitchcock inspired far less competent people to think that quick cutting is a good idea if you don't know how to do it well.
Exactly. And this is from the perspective of, I guess, someone who's viewed that evolution in reverse, coming from the more modern to the predecessors versus someone who would have seen that first and then coming through time at the speed of time.
Yep.
The worst kind of time travel.
Absolutely fair. Yep. I 100% get that, because that's things like that, honestly, are one of the reasons that Dunn infuriated me so much. And not just Kevin Dunn. Taking it outside of the WWE standpoint, and that said, fuck Kevin Dunn forever. There was an era of filmmaking, and thankfully we have moved past that a little bit over the last, I would say, decade or so, where every action scene was quick cut action scene.
Yeah, it's like everything had to be all right, we're going to get rid of proper cameras. We're going to have little handheld, like mini cameras, because when you're running, it'll look real. It's like, no, that just makes your audience sick.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's a whole other issue that is actually a very fair point. There was, I think, the most egregious example I can remember. We're going to go to Marvel here. Not the movies, but Iron Fist, the TV show. And there is a fight scene where our lead character, Danny Rand, is in the middle, and Danny Rand is supposed to be this really badass martial artist. Gets into a fight with another badass martial artist, and there were, I want to say, in like a minute's time, there were something like 25. No, that's not, it's more than that. It's like 50 or 60 cuts. It's real bad. And the reason that they did this for as long as they did was because there weren't action directors at that point. Most of the people that we knew that were really good and competent at directing action weren't doing mainstream action anymore. Or at least studios didn't want to hire them for one reason or another. Why do that when you can just hire someone who will work cheap, and to disguise the fact that you don't know how to shoot action, you're just going to cut 17,000 times? So yeah, if you were to view this stuff and then Psycho, I can absolutely see why it would remind you of that.
Yeah. So if that's his style, it's like, well, I've definitely seen an end point of that.
Mm-hmm. And that's not, like, he didn't do quick cut stuff often. In fact, one of his most, and one of the ones of his that I like the most, Rope, is the exact opposite. It is, there are 2 cuts in the entire film, and they are disguised. And were only cut for technical reasons, because you could only have so much film in a camera, and the film plays out as a single cut from start to finish. Hitchcock was about, what is the best way to do this, and I want to try to do this interesting thing and see how it plays out. So yeah, it wasn't just about this particular one tactic. He just originated kind of this one sequence. But yeah, Holly, what do you think of Hitchcock's direction here? Obviously, you're a little bit more familiar with his work. What is some stuff that stands out to you, good or bad? Stuff that you really vibe with, things that don't necessarily work?
Well, first of all, the entire film being in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really like. I think that is Hitchcock right there. That's very much has his stamp on it. And like that right from the start. And then, I mean, just a major thing that really stands out to me is the shower scene.
Mm-hmm.
The, yes, obviously the shower scene, but the close-up of the eye.
Yeah.
Afterwards, and I mean, you could just count every eyelash, but yeah, like the close-up of the eye is just, it's perfect. And just little other things. Just the way things are done. The way everything is done with his mother, in quotes. Him arguing with her, carrying her down the stairs, like the way that we see her, but we don't actually see her. And the way that, the reveal at the end and everything.
Yep.
and something else that I just really like that I forgot it was done this way is when Marion is driving, the conversations. You know what she's thinking, and then you're like, well, is this how she thinks the conversation is happening? Is this how the conversation is actually happening between her boss and the creep and everything?
That's something I was actually going to give a shout out, and I forgot to. Janet Leigh's performance in those car scenes, because those could be the most boring things ever.
Oh, yes.
Like, she is sitting there, the camera is full on her. And obviously, very clearly, there's nothing else to really focus on but her. And the level of nuance that she gives in those scenes. All the way up until the end. And one of the smiles that sticks with me the most in cinema is the way that she's smiling at the end of the car scenes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit creepy, but it's also like...
I mean, there's another smile that sticks with me from this movie.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
That's the one at the end.
And again, I don't think that it is coincidence that we have those two mirrored smiles.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's a very intentional choice by Hitchcock to give us that connection of these two characters. But yeah, no, those scenes are very almost quintessential Hitchcock stuff. But yeah, we'll talk about the shower scene a little bit more, because I could talk for hours just on that. There is literally a books and a documentary just on the making of that scene. It's really great. It's called 7852 in relation to the shots and cuts. But I love the way Hitchcock uses the camera in this movie, because again, it is connecting us as viewers with Marion and Norman, particularly in terms of sort of the voyeurism of this film. And this starts from the beginning. We get that opening shot of it panning over, like wide angle shots of Phoenix. And then we zoom in and we go under the window blinds to get into Sam and Marion's hotel room. And by the same notion, we have the overhead shot just when Norman mother comes out and stabs Arbogast. These are both very voyeuristic shots. Like that, the Arbogast one hits particularly hard right now because it feels like a security camera footage, which is not something that I think would have been as strong in 1960 because it wasn't as prevalent. We weren't in quite as much of a surveillance state at that point. But both of these scenes are scenes where it feels like we're watching something that we shouldn't be. And in both cases, it's either an enticing scene because we're coming in on what is clearly the aftermath of a little afternoon delight, as it would be referred to, or we're viewing one of the kills in the movie. These are things that we shouldn't be seeing. Very much like Norman as he's sort of peeping on Marion. These are very intentional choices by Hitchcock. And I could go on and probably talk for hours and hours about all of the different themes and all the different things. Talking about the use of birds alone in this movie and bird motifs is its whole own point. But the only other thing that I'm going to specifically point out for this is I was talking earlier about how Lila and Sam are sort of doubles for, or mirrors for, Marion and Norman. Mirrors are very important in this movie. You see a number of times where Hitchcock connects reflections of the characters, mostly around Marion, a little bit around Norman as well. There are a bunch of times where Marion, particularly after she steals the money, we're presented with a reflection. There's a scene when she's at the car dealership, where we see her reflection actually a couple of times, and she's constantly avoiding looking at it, or she doesn't notice it. There is this fantastic visual scene when she's talking with Norman, and it is, you have Marion on the left, you have Norman on the right, and you have the desk between them, and there is a mirror behind Marion. There is not one behind Norman. And this is very notably when she is lying to him about who she is. Hitchcock is doing a lot of this in order to show duplicity and characters who are not only not being honest with the people they're interacting with, but with themselves. You contrast that with the one really significant scene involving Lila in a mirror when she's in the Bates house. She goes up into the room that Mother is normally in, and she sees a double reflection of herself. She's very instantly repelled and freaks out, and it's sort of a jump scare moment. She's repelled by this because she is inherently, as a character, rejects that kind of madness and quote unquote madness and duplicity. That's just one other example of like the kinds of things that Hitchcock is doing here as a director that, again, don't stand out as much as Jimmy Stewart stuck in a single room observing his neighbors in Rear Window, or the visual motifs in Vertigo, or the crop duster scene and all of the elements in North by Northwest that are much flashier, but I think it's almost better work in a lot of ways here in Psycho because it's not in your face. I really do think that in a lot of ways this is Hitchcock's masterpiece as a director because he's not being as flashy about it. But his one really flashy moment is that shower scene. Like, it's arguably one of the most famous scenes in cinema. I don't know, even if you are a complete newbie to the notion of movies, I don't know how you can't know about this scene. It's obviously the biggest set piece in the film by far. Elle, you've kind of talked about how it stands out to you in terms of the Kevin Dunn kind of way. Beyond that, how do you think its execution holds up? Pun unintended, but I said it and I'm sticking with it.
I think that for as pulp culture influence as it is, like how much of an influence, I'm surprised at how little blood, well, quote, blood, there actually is. I think every time I've seen it elsewhere or been made aware to reference of it, it sounds like it's more than it is.
Mm-hmm.
Not on the level of like the elevators in The Shining.
Right.
But still like, oh, that is very little visible blood, which I guess is still something that you would want to worry about censoring.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's like studio interference. Or maybe that's someone being realistic about the amount of blood you would get from stabbing like a body versus an artery.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, I've mentioned how like chaotic it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you did it today, it would look more realistic, while not necessarily being any more or less violent. Because I think that the standards of the time dictated how that could be presented. And I don't think that today you would have as many issues with that.
No, and it has literally been, the exact scene was replicated. Now, this was not. This is still like, what is Van Sant's movie, like 97 or something like that? $1998. So it's still at this point almost 30 years ago. But you can see a more modern version of that if you want to subject yourself to Gus Van Sant's 1998 Psycho. It's literally this movie, shot for shot, except for instead of starring Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh, it's Vince Vaughn and Anne Hesh. There's no reason to watch it. It's a worse movie in every way.
Is it in black and white?
No, it is shot in color.
Oh.
It was, Van Sant was basically wanted to do an experiment of a shot-for-shot remake. It is the exact same script. Not exact same. There are a few minor differences. The murder sequences are not, they're don't watch that movie. It's bad.
I mean, I could see why that would be an interesting experiment to partake on as a filmmaker.
Absolutely. I'm just resentful that I watched it. I am all for Gus Van Sant doing all the weird experimentations that he wants. But did you have to sell it to me? But yeah, no, I think, as far as the blood stuff, I think it's a very intentional thing. I mean, I know it's an intentional thing. Not only because of the sensibilities at the time, and while Hitchcock was pushing the envelope, certainly, I think Hitchcock would look at modern films and be absolutely horrified how far the envelope is pushed at this point. He may have been trying to push transgressiveness as far as that stuff for his time, but his time was still the 1960s. But I also think he very much knew, sort of like what you said, Elle, like the pop culture perception of that sequence is that it is a gory, violent sequence. It's not. There is arguably one shot that, because of tricks of the light and so on, appear to show a knife going into the abdomen. But it's so quick, you blink and you miss it, and everything else, literally you blink and you miss it. And all of the other sequences, it's a masterpiece of cutting together a sequence to make you think there's so much more going on than is there. I would argue there aren't many sequences that short and concentrated in cinema that have been quite as effective at doing that. what really stands out to me personally about that sequence, the flashy stuff and the multi shots and the cuts and all that, that's great. The moments that stand out to me are the aftermath. That's what makes it disturbing to me. Is not the swirls of blood going into the drain. Not even the eye is a great moment. Not even the eye. It is the moment after when we see Janet Leigh laying on the ground, eyes open, jaw slack. We've seen that sort of a scene before in cinema, or since, I should say. But you don't expect to see that in a 1960 film, and it is kind of stunning to me. In a good way. It's a little breathtaking to see that particular moment, because Hitchcock is focusing on the aftermath there. And like most 60s horror films, sure, someone's going to die, but you're very quickly going to cut away and not think about the fact that there's a dead body there. No, Hitchcock wants you to know, yeah, this is a body. It doesn't go away after the fact. And it's so well done to me. Holly, how about you? What, obviously you talked about the eye moment, which it is a major part of Hitchcock's directing work here. And it is a really, really good moment. Is there anything else that stands out to you? Is it too chaotic for you? How does the rest of it play out?
I think it's perfect. Honestly, I wish it was almost a little longer. I'm not saying it needs to be more graphic. I'm just saying a little longer. Because there were some great shots there. And I would argue there could be even more blood, but I understand they did what they could, and it was very bold at the time.
Yep.
The music, of course.
Oh, God, the score.
It's... Oh, and just Sorry, I wanted to add a little story to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
My father's a mean person. So, so I remember when he showed me the movie the first time.
I'm excited to hear where this is going to go.
He didn't murder me in the shower, but, well, he asked, okay, I guess it was probably like a weekend or something. And he's like, do you have anything going on tonight? And I'm like, no, I mean, I need to shower before I go to bed, but that's it. And he's like, perfect. And he got this smile on his face. He's like, let's watch a movie. And then shows me Psycho. And then afterwards he's like, okay, you probably need to take that shower now, right? And then like afterwards, when I'm like trying to go down the hallway from the bathroom to my room, he like comes up behind me and he's like doing the sound effects and stuff, like chasing me into my room and stuff. And after I went to bed, he was still doing sound effects from my doorway.
That is amazing.
Because he's a mean person, but yes.
So when Norman, it's just a little detail that I love to show how attention focused Hitchcock is on sort of the sub themes a little bit. So Norman, goes into the other hotel room, takes off the painting to look through the peephole to spy on Marion. The painting that he removes is a fairly well-known painting of from the book of Daniel, Susanna and the Elders, which is a biblical story of two men peeping on a bathing woman. Just to add into that sort of voyeurism theme and add a little bit of ironic, I don't know, humor would be the right point or right way to put it, because that sounds fucked up in some way. But it's just another example of how good Hitchcock is in putting these little details in. And things like, you might not even notice that because he takes the painting off fairly quickly, but on a rewatch, and granted rewatches weren't so much a thing in 1960 because home video wasn't a thing, but it's such a nice little moment. Yeah, I love this shower scene. I think obviously for the time that it is boundary pushing. Yes, it absolutely probably could have been more, but honestly, I feel like it's a situation of addition by subtraction, because by hinting at it, your mind creates the probably makes it much worse than it could have been if it had been a little bit more explicit. Again, the censorship story. Some people saw it, some people didn't. And then he resubmitted it unchanged, and the other people saw it, and the original people didn't. Like, that's a level kind of brilliance to me. Yeah, I just think there's a reason it's an iconic scene. That said, Psycho is absolutely, undeniably influential. It is arguably the most influential horror film of all time. We probably wouldn't have slashers without it, or at least not in the form that we are familiar with today. There are a number of, probably every horror film is taken from it in at least some way. That said, it also has a very unfortunate legacy in terms of it wasn't the first film to do this, but it's the most well-known film, especially from the early era, in terms of creating I'm going to refer to it as transphobic representation, despite the fact that doesn't necessarily apply here, because it's about the perception that it creates rather than what the film itself said. Because it's funny, we did Rocky Horror, and now we're doing this. I feel like Psycho is a little bit similar to it in that, is the film itself specifically transphobic? You can argue either way, but not necessarily, particularly with the scene at the end. But it has inspired several other films that are arguably much, much worse in terms of their reputation, even if they're great films. Just a few examples of films that have sort of followed in that legacy and sort of gone their own way, or not gone their own way, but exacerbated the issue. We have William Castle's Homicidal from 1961, immediately after this. We have Dressed to Kill from Brian De Palma in 1980, which is explicitly a transphobic movie. A great movie, but explicitly equates a trans character as a killer. We have Silence of the Lambs. Amazing movie. Complicated Legacy. Sleepaway Camp. Insidious Chapter 2. Like, there's a very strong legacy of this, and you could argue that Psycho kind of kicks it off. So my question here, Elle, do you think, is it fair to blame Psycho for this?
I don't believe so. I think if there was, like, it feels like that was transphobic by coincidence, nearly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's certainly not going out of its way to make it a point.
Right.
I think it's more on the people that took that in that way to then run with. So it's not like the people who like saw that and go, you know, in a more modern parlance, oh, that's transphobic.
Mm-hmm.
It is the people that see that and go, oh, that's funny, or I could work with that.
Yep.
So not necessarily people who are identifying it as an issue.
Right.
But yeah, so that's
fully fair.
That's where I would put the blame, if anything. You know, it's not the people who could, you know, clock someone on the street who are the problem. It's the people who then go and grab a baseball bat.
Right.
For example.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see what you're getting there. No, yeah, that's fair. Holly, what do you think about it? Is it...
I think
Again, the film sort of is explicit in the end in a weirdly, it almost feels tacked on to explain things. It feels almost like a studio note scene, even though I know it couldn't be, because Hitchcock is the least likely person to take studio notes in the history of filmmaking. But
which scene are you referring to?
The end scene where the psychologist is explaining.
Yes. Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah. Where they very specifically, I think one of the police is like, so he's a transvestite. And the doctor's like, no, he's not. And here's why.
Yeah. Well, because he's saying that his mother took over. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it doesn't portray it in the best light. Like, there's a lot of gray area there in this film. And yeah, it does sound like at the end that there, because again, I'd forgotten about parts of this movie, so I'd forgotten about the conversation,
right,
with the psychiatrist at the end. It does sound like, oh no, we're making up an excuse. No, like we're not against that. This is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of like they're just trying to cover themselves. Yeah, I have kind of mixed feelings on the portrayal of it.
And that is a very fair thing to have.
It's kind of like no, he didn't have a kink for blood. He was just murdering people.
Right.
It was a kink for murder, not the blood.
Yeah, but that's the kind of thing. It's like, no, that's a different thing and also not a thing, kind of.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Yeah.
It's funny because, like, I'm gonna probably the best example, the best comparison that can be made is Dressed to Kill, which I don't know if either of you have seen Dressed to Kill. Brian De Palma has been very explicit about the fact that he is he was inspired by Hitchcock heavily. Not that Dressed to Kill was specifically inspired by Psycho, but he as a filmmaker was inspired by Hitchcock. And Dressed to Kill, I will probably have us cover it at some point. Like, I will probably pick it at some point, because it is legitimately a really good film. And it has all the neo-noir stuff that I love, and the psychological thriller stuff that I love. Performances, it's a gorgeous movie, but, and I say we're going to pick it, and then I'm going to spoil one of the main plot points, but it is what it is. Explicitly, the killer in the movie is a transgender character. And it's not great. So I think Psycho has a very complicated legacy in that way. But I do kind of feel like, kind of like what you said, it's hard to blame the movie for, just like we can't blame Psycho for Kevin Dunn, I don't think we can blame Psycho for Brian De Palma. Or for Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, or Angela in Sleepaway Camp, and all the other like terrible portrayals that have been legitimately harmful stereotypes. Like, I see why anybody I understand why anybody might have a problem with it, and it's definitely something that you look at and you're like, at this point, but I do have it is hard for me to blame it. On the other hand, perhaps more substantially to the film, I think Psycho has also influenced a lot of attitudes towards certain types of mental health disorders. And this is arguably the most famous film that attempts to contain something akin to DID. And it's not great. Al, how do you feel about the way that this film does that? Is it better or worse than other films that you've seen about
it? I think it's weirdly more grounded.
Okay.
Like, it definitely has like enough checkpoints to go, okay, someone's, done their research and this is all credible. But it's like a little bit extra, the acceptance of it. It's like, okay, I needed to take a couple extra steps to get there, but I guess I can get there.
Right.
There's definitely worse out there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Split.
What movie?
It's the Shyamalan one with James McAvoy.
All you have to say is Shyamalan.
I know. I knew all I had to say was M. Night Shyamalan. You'll be like, oh yeah, it's terrible.
Oh, that's the worst interpretation. I don't even have to know what it is.
But it's even like anytime you see hypnosis in movies, to a point, it's just like it isn't just mind control. Hypnosis is like an acceptance on both sides. Like, the person has to be willing to buy into that idea before it can even take, and it takes a lot.
Yep.
Even like the stage hypnosis, people are willing to fake it, essentially, because it gives them the excuse.
Right.
But with this one, it's like Norman shows no sign of any lost time. So you could argue that it's not technically DID, except there are some forms of alters that would do paramemory. So they would fill in the blank space with a credible but boring like backstory, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, well, you went out to the field and killed someone. It's like, well, no, I didn't. I was here in my office the entire time. Oh, but you've got dirt all over you. Yeah, I fell down. Look at how dusty this is. And it would make a kind of sense. And that's just how that works. Right. And then with the like integration at the end with the abuser alter, which is what was happening, it's like, yeah, that is functionally credible, though it would take a few more steps to get to that point. I could definitely see how someone could get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting that it is weirdly grounded in a way, even if I had to fill in some of the gaps.
Right. Because it is, let's be honest, it is a pop culture, like, movie 1960 version of DID, which is certainly an era where we understood what that was.
We don't even have that now.
Oh, yes.
No, we don't have it now. By the way, don't mind me. I'm just putting, because you mentioned hypnosis, I had to put Stir of Echoes on our list for films to cover eventually. I love that movie. But
yeah, like the amount of stuff that's out there for like systems and like people experiencing that type of thing, it's not great, especially when it's like, oh, well, you know, thinking about multiple personalities. Here, watch this. It's, you know, you're secretly a serial killer in your dreams.
Right.
How is that helpful?
Yeah.
But it's sometimes this is what legitimate doctors have to go by, because that's not their main area of study, to be fair. But it's just like, oh yeah, like that one where, you know, he's his own mother or something. Like thinking about Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the extent of their medical training.
Jesus Christ. That's terrifying.
Yeah, I wonder how I could figure that out.
Yeah.
Certainly nothing that I've had to experience.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, fair. And I guess, like, obviously this is not the best representation, but I don't know, is it kind of a weird situation? Like, again, we covered this kind of last episode with Rocky Horror. We're like, well, yeah, you know, Frankenfurter is a is a manipulative, murdering, dubiously, potentially sexually assaulting a psychopath, but it's queer representation, like identifying with those is this kind of that weird, like, well, at least it's representation thing?
Yeah, look, I mean, people of any gender identity or sexual identity can be weird psycho killers. We have that power, queer community.
Yes!
We can be just as good with a blade as your next Johnny Psycho down the block.
100%.
Please don't stand up and be counted.
Very please not. Yeah, no, that is absolutely, I get that. Holly, how did you see sort of how it approaches, like, the mental health stuff? Does it come off as, like, again, in comparison to other films you've seen?
I mean, I agree, and what I was going to bring up was the time period. First of all, on it's not the best time period. Like, I feel like we're only just, like, not only just now, but there's more information coming out about it.
Yep.
Like, every year, every day, really, and we're able to learn more. So back then, I feel like, and I don't mean to, like, defend them, but I feel like it was easier to stereotype it. They really only had the stereotypes to go off of.
Yep. In 1959, 1960, this was probably, like, deep, well-researched, as authentic as you can be, because we still don't understand it now.
Yes.
So, fucking 65 years ago, when
Oh
we
my
didn't know
gosh,
we didn't know
it's been
what
that long.
PTSD was at that point.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I have a family history there. Yes, we did not.
We didn't know what aid. I think back to like the early 90s, early to early mid 90s, and the point where we were trying to figure out what ADD was. And essentially, because that was when I got diagnosed with it, and essentially was, here, take these pills. Now, granted, it's not much better today, but at least it's like, well, we have multiple options for pills now, and let's try these different things. And also, here are some potential coping mechanisms to deal with it, and so on and so forth.
Is this a rare example of the US healthcare system being better than ours?
Probably.
I got it's ADHD, here's some pills. We only have 2 options, so if that doesn't work and the other one doesn't work, well, good luck.
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know. I'm by no means an expert on what medications there are today, because I was diagnosed in the early mid 90s, and they just said, here, have Ritalin. And I took it for about 2 or 3 weeks. I really did not like the way that I felt about it or on it. And so I flushed my pills, and I have never gone back, which is probably not healthy. I have figured out my own coping mechanisms over the last 30 years about it. But I've never gotten beyond that initial thing. I've never really gotten any treatment for it. So I don't know what current stuff is. I just know it's better than what I had. But yeah, it's at the time was probably really good. Looking back, it's very simplistic, but like you said, it's definitely more grounded than something like I said, Split, or just about any other representation of DID, which is often given a more supernatural or fantasy kind of twist in it in most of the films or shows that I can think of.
Like, even we covered it with Patchwork. It's like, that is less grounded, because it is coming from that more sort of supernatural, like, where it's not really the focal point. But yeah, this kind of works as a more realistic representation, and that is astounding to me.
Right. That's very fair. So, before we dive too far into final thoughts, let's talk some related recommendations. Elle, what would you recommend for somebody if they were a fan of this?
I definitely got vibes like for Jaws.
Okay.
And actually Carrie.
I can really see Carrie.
Yeah, I like having seen both of those. Like, Carrie is a while ago now, but yeah, those were the vibes I was getting from watching this. Like, these were probably inspired at least in part by this.
Yeah, very much so. Both good choices. Holly, how about you? What would your recommendation be for somebody who saw this and really liked it?
So I've got 2 recommendations.
I'm curious if one of yours is going to be the same as one of mine. It's okay. I have 3, so I can lose one if need be.
Okay. Watch both of them be. The first one, if you like Hitchcock and you want to get a whole lot more birds, The Birds.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
would say that's a really good one.
Mhm.
And then the other one, slightly more modern, I would go with Scream.
Yep.
Which we talked about earlier. Did I steal either of yours?
No.
Okay, good.
I am impressed. I thought you might.
Okay, so now I'm curious what yours are going to be.
So my Hitchcock one is Rear Window.
See, I almost went that, but then
Yep.
I thought birds worked well. There are so many bird references.
Because Rear Window is, for me, it is the most explicitly psychological thriller like this one. It makes really good use of very limited locations, single location, frankly, the same way that this one does. It's a little claustrophobic like this one. It is the one that I always think of when I think of psycho comparisons. My other recommendations are, if you like this and you want something that is not Hitchcockian, or it's Hitchcockian, but it's not Hitchcock, 1960s Peeping Tom. This is a British film. This is the other proto-slasher that really helped inspire the genre, and also follows a serial killer. And it is the first film, famously the first film, to put you in the eyes, in the POV of the serial killer. It is a great film. It is very stylish. It unfortunately destroyed the directing career of the man who made it, Michael Powell, because it was so shocking at the time. But it is a brilliant, brilliant film. And again, one that I will probably be picking at some point for us to cover. And then the last thing I'm going to say is it's a twofer, but I have not seen Psycho 4 yet, but I have seen 2 and 3. And if you like 1, check out 2 and 3. They are different movies. 2 is more of a psychological thriller that focuses on Anthony Perkins is back for both of them. It was released, I want to say in 1980, like 84, something like that.
I believe the second one is 1980.
Yeah. And Norman has been released from prison, returned to the hotel, and is trying to return to a normal life and fight off Mother. And then 3 is just a straight slasher. Perkins directed it. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit wacky, but it's a lot of fun. And in both of them, Perkins is giving a phenomenal performance. So if you liked 1, definitely check out 2 and 3. I cannot speak to 4. It was a made-for-TV movie. I've not seen it yet. I've heard it's the worst of them, but still at least worth checking out, but I won't personally vouch for it. So yeah, that's Psycho. Let's give our final thoughts on it. Holly, what do you think just overall on the film? What is your final rating?
I keep going back and forth on my final rating. Final thoughts. I mean, it's Hitchcock. It's brilliant. The filming is fantastic. It's a classic. Right. Are there some issues? Yes. But it's still a wonderful movie, much like Rocky Horror.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. 4 close-up eyeballs out of 5.
Nice. Elle, how about you?
It's definitely one that would have benefited me for being seen earlier in life, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my mind, I'm just constantly comparing it to other things. So being the product of its time that it is, a lot of the techniques and like choices are slightly more archaic in my mind.
Right.
Which, I mean, isn't exactly fair, but that's, I guess, how opinion works.
Yeah, legit.
So I'm going to go 2.5 questionable wig choices.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, is it dated now? Yes, absolutely. I always feel like you have to view it in the point that it was made, in the context of where it was made. For example, stuff like Casablanca, absolutely perfect film as far as I'm concerned. I understand that the acting is very theatrical because that was just the style of performance at that point. Psycho, I think, within the context of the era that it was made, with all of the depth that it has, just truly brilliant performances of both Anthony Perkins, who I don't even feel like I gave Perkins enough credit in this. He is such a charming character in this, and sort of nervous and bumbly, but also very naturalistic. It's hard not to fall in love with Norman. Janet Leigh is very, very good. Even by those respects, I don't think it's a perfect movie. It's just very close to a perfect movie. And I am going to give it a 4.5 superimposed skulls out of 5. It's real close to a perfect movie. Just a couple things that would have gotten there. So that's Psycho for us. Next week, we're going to be coming into Torment Holly mode. Elle, what are we covering?
We're getting festive for the season and looking at Gremlins.
Yep. That's going to be fun.
Buckle up. It's going to be interesting.
I haven't seen Gremlins. Actually, no, it's probably only been a couple years, but it'll be a fun rewatch.
It hasn't been long enough.
I am excited to hear this debate. But that's next episode. Meanwhile, you can find us at whatever podcatcher you prefer. We are on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Final Ghouls Pod.
And since roughly the 5th century BCE, philosophers have been arguing the existence of the multiverse. So somewhere out there is a universe where you rate us 5 stars with a nice review. There are also universes out there where you don't do that and we get you for it. So why take the risk?
Fantastic. Meanwhile, you can find me at JThomasForWomanMania on Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and Instagram.
I am at shards at kind.social on Mastodon and Shard System on Letterboxd.
And you can find me at Holly Culp on Blue Sky and Miniature Magic 18 on Instagram.
And you can find all of us playing role-playing games at Final Show Films on Twitch and YouTube. Elle, what is our horror book survival guide tip?
On Halloween, there is no such thing as a coincidence. In fact, there's no such thing as coincidence, just like ever.